fellow Marylander.
Chris Van He's in the Senate, but he's been in the House a long time. I'm trying to explain to the people who don't know you from the House.
Well, it's good to join my friend Al Franken over here. You've been just doing a bang-up job on the floor of the Senate.
Well, thank you. You know, I'm on the Health Committee, so I was part of the hearings for Tom Price. There are all kinds of reasons he's not right for this job. One is that he has talked about privatizing. He's legislated. He's tried to privatize Medicare. That's something you guys? No? Huh. I wonder why. Anyway, so and then also he has these ethical problems, which, you know, I think you've been in Congress a lot longer than I have. But part of our job is to not even present the appearance of corruption, right?
Absolutely.
And that's what we're supposed to do, and he hasn't done that.
No, he has not, but
he hasn't done that, and maybe explain to the folks.
well, let me just say first a little bit about his plan to privatize Medicare. You're talking
Okay,
about.
sure.
We got some fellow Marylanders here as well, senator from Minnesota, but because I had a close-up seat.
Oh, that's right.
His
You were
Tom
served with
Price's
him,
positions. He was the chairman of the Budget Committee. I was the senior Democrat on the Budget Committee. So,
oh, then what am I even
no,
doing
no,
here?
no. Here's how his plan works. You know, private. It sometimes sounds good, but essentially what they do is this: they say to any of you who are on Medicare that instead of getting the full coverage that you do today, we got a deal for you. We're going to give you a voucher, right? So they give you a voucher. But here's the catch. The value of the voucher stays pretty constant. So healthcare costs go up and up and up, and the voucher you've got, it doesn't go up. So who eats the costs? Medicare beneficiaries eat the cost. That's how he saves Medicare money, not by reforming it in a smart way like we did in the Affordable Care Act, but a flat cut, putting all the risk on seniors on Medicare.
And Medicare works incredibly efficiently as a healthcare system. That's one thing. So now, and as an insurance system. So what you're saying basically, here's a voucher. Now you're going to have to buy your insurance somewhere else, which is a really great thing to do to, you know, people that are older. I think the older people get, the smarter it is, especially as we see so many people as they get older who really don't, you know, aren't in a position necessarily to make those kind of decisions for themselves. And I'm talking about a lot older than you guys.
No, but you're right. Look, it can be confusing. Look, as people like, you know, all of us will be there at some point in time. It gets really hard when people throw all sorts of advertising at you and say, here's a good plan, and here's a better plan. But no, and the worst part on top of that is that voucher is going to begin to purchase the plan that you've got today. And I know Pat, it's not, you're on Medicare, I believe, right?
Yeah, we're all
All
on
on
Medicare.
Medicare.
But these three
I'm on Medicare.
have
Okay.
chronic conditions.
I'm on Medicare, okay, pal.
Okay.
Don't get rid of don't get rid of my
I got my AARP card.
You get that at like 50
I
or
got it.
55.
I got it.
That's nothing.
But anyway, you know what's up with some of this
Yeah.
as well, right?
Yeah, absolutely. And for all, these three all have chronic conditions. They would never get insurance without a pre-existing condition that we have under the ACA. The prohibition on ignoring and not covering pre-existing.
Well, of course, this gets us to the, we'll get back to the conflict of interest later, but when we're talking about ACA, they are talking about repeal, and they haven't actually put out a plan to replace it.
I think we should send out a posse to look for that, don't you? I mean, you know,
I have asked
looking under
them,
the desks.
you know, I think Tom Price may be watching on Facebook. I hear he's a lot like the president. No, he isn't at all. But Tom, if you're watching, I'd like to see the plan. Any Republican, I'd like to see your plan. Because you're saying, the Affordable Care Act, if you have a pre-existing condition, you can't be discriminated against. There are no lifetime caps anymore, so you won't go bankrupt if you get really sick. I heard from a woman who has a 3-year-old son who has a kind of cancer. And because he is so sick, and his treatment, he has a very bad immune system, so he can't go to daycare. So she's had to quit her job to take care of her son, who's very sick. And she said it was because of the Affordable Care Act, her 3-year-old son is with us today. If it weren't for the Affordable Care Act, this precious 3-year-old boy, she feels, wouldn't be with us. I have a 3.5-year-old grandson. The Affordable Care Act has extended the solvency of Medicare by 11 years. It's the biggest entitlement reform that we've had since, I guess, Reagan and Tip O'Neill did Social Security with Congress. And people can, kids can stay on until they're 26 on their parents. It's bringing down the donut holes, closing the donut hole. We've seen prescription drugs going up. Now, we have a problem in the individual, in the exchanges.
Yeah.
But we can address that, and that's what we should be doing.
We can fix the exchanges issue, but you're making a really good point, and I think it's important that everyone understand that the people who are, for the first time, getting affordable health care in the exchanges, the 22 million Americans, they would lose all access to affordable health care if you were to repeal, right, without any replacement. But everybody else who gets their
protection.
Everybody else, a lot of people don't realize this, right? Everybody else who gets their insurance through their employer, which is most Americans, they're benefiting from all these protections. You're talking about the patient protections and no pre-existing conditions. So a lot of people don't realize they're benefiting.
Free preventive care.
Yep.
But also, Minnesotans, I think there are 2.3 million, and my staff will check out if that's the exact number. Minnesotans would have been affected by pre-existing conditions, be penalized for it. It used to be, but not anymore. And about 2 million, I believe, had caps, had lifetime caps. This is why when I was campaigning in 2008 for the Senate, going around Minnesota, every cafe I went into, every VFW hall, on the bulletin board, there'd be a spaghetti dinner, a barbecue, a burger bash for a family, because someone in the family had gotten really sick, and they were going into bankruptcy.
Yeah.
That is not happening the way it happened. About half of all bankruptcies used to be tied to a healthcare crisis. So, look, Tom Price, we didn't get into his ethical problems. Basically, he's buying stock in healthcare companies while he's legislating healthcare. We're not supposed to.
You guys got into that in a really important way.
Well, yeah, and it was like, how dare you? And people, don't buy stock in something you're legislating on, and buy a lot of it, and don't take an inside deal. He was one of 20 people who took advantage of he got an insider price along with another congressman, I don't know, is it Chris Collins, is that his name?
That's the person.
Yeah, and his chief of staff and a big lobbyist here in town got this inside deal, and he made a huge purchase on this, made a lot of money. If you're supposed to not even present the appearance of corruption, he did not do that. And believe me, you remember that Tom Daschle had to drop out because he didn't pay taxes on a car. He got,
Yep, I remember.
he had a car that he forgot to count as income and didn't pay tax on it. That's why he withdrew. This is 100 times worse. He should, if he had, well, I'm out.
All right. I heard it.
All right,
I'm gonna
thank
take
you.
off. All right.
Helen,
It's
I'm
good to be
bringing in,
here. And,
yes,
thank you all
with
very
your
much. Great to see you.
constituents
See you
from
back in Maryland.
Maryland,
That's right.
and your constituents, and, you know, we are in the